Hi, everybody, and welcome to the new episode of Real Talk with Rob Tabby. I'm excited to bring on today CEO of XP Power, Duncan Penny. Hi, Duncan. How are you?
Hi, Rob. I'm really well. Honored to be here.
Great to see you. Great to have you on Real Talk. I know we've been company's been longtime partners, and and I see what XP Power has done in the last 20 years under your leadership. So today, I really want to take a historical step back and really understand XP Power in general, and give the back to origins, and really what is XP Power today's market doing as you know, powering the world's critical systems today. What is the background and what the business sector that you're in?
So we're in power electronics. That's all we do. So we're a specialist in that area. We started off actually as a small distribution company, yes, founded by a guy called James Peters way back in 1988, and he basically went into it by accident. I hope he won't mind me saying that, but the company he worked for was taken over. He didn't like it, so he set up on his own, very small company, and then he grew that, and then in about the year 2000, they did an IPO, and I joined at that stage to actually as a finance director to do the IPO. So I got into power completely by accident. It was going to be a 2-year gig for me, so I joined, and then we floated on the stock market. At the time, if you can remember back then, 2000, you had to be a .com to float, and then the .com fell out of bed, and anything but .com could float. So we managed to get the float away. And we sort of spent that time sort of building up a sales channel across Europe and North America. And our sort of idea is we would be a power supply supermarket, if you like. So all the big guys used to sell through lots of small distribution companies or reps in North America. And the idea then was we'd actually build a sales channel, and then we would be that one channel dealing with the smaller mid-tier customers. And the big companies would just come to us, and that worked so well for so long. But what happened, like the supermarket model, the relationship got uncomfortable with the principals. So I think they saw just in the supermarket model is that the supermarkets had the pricing power really, because they had more volume. They were talking to the customers, so that got a bit uncomfortable. So we decided to become a designer, and we bought a small company, and we're pretty close to where you are in Southern California. Company called Switching Systems International, and we became a designer. And then from there it developed. We thought that we knew what the market wanted in terms of products, so we would develop products specifically for the industrial medical markets that we saw. And we really had a market then which we were growing. Our own business, if you like, was growing quite nicely, and our old distribution business was going backwards, but the margins were improving. And then we decided that we needed to become a manufacturer. So whereas a lot of the big companies were actually getting out of manufacturing to get rid of their fixed costs, we started talking to some of the interesting medical companies, and they said, well, we like what you're doing, but we won't deal with you because you don't manufacture the product. And quality and reliability is so important to us. If you don't have absolute control of the supply chain, we're not going to deal with you. So we did a joint venture with a manufacturing partner in Kunshan in China way back in 2006. We bought that out, and then we thought, things are going well. We started getting into the bigger medical customers. And then we thought we were going to have a banner year in 2009. And then, of course, the great financial recession happened. Yeah, and we had a medical business that grew quite nicely, but the industrial business went backwards. Came through that, built another factory in Vietnam, which we might talk about, which has done us really well in terms of dealing with Section 301 tariffs in the US and the current coronavirus crisis as well. Then we sort of went back onto the acquisition trail, got into RF power, high voltage, and that sort of brings you up to date, really. That's a really quick fly through 20 years.
So it's amazing 20 years, and you've done an amazing job. I know your leadership and the team's leadership and going through it and transitioning through this last 20 years technology revolution that's happened. Everything has happened in the world, and how we're going. Because I know you guys are in healthcare, I think industrial electronics, semiconductor equipment, and the basic IoT technology, right? Those are the main sectors, correct? Main sectors of it. So overall, what, in your play of XP Power, where do you fit? There's a lot of players in it, but really, where do you fit fit in with I know you have a lot of customization products. What is your core competencies of XP Power's?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, because it is a very fragmented market. There's probably 1,000 people who do what we do. Some of them a lot bigger, some a lot smaller. I think for us, our model is very much direct sales. So a lot of companies will sell through distribution channels, or they'll do custom. So our model is to have a very broad product portfolio, which is easy to modify. So, if we find an opportunity, the likelihood is we can get it working in the customer's application, but we're selling direct to the customer. So, so whereas the really big guys would be dealing, through distribution channels, with us, that the customer can talk directly to our engineers. Maybe not too dissimilar to the way you approach your customers. Yes. I'm guessing, from really good dealings with your company.
Yes.
But so it's basically broad product portfolio, dealing direct with the customer, and it's really service and support. Because to be honest, I'd love to say, we've got technology that's better than anybody else, and now our quality is better than anybody else, and our cost is cheaper. But the reality is in our market, there isn't any leading technology. We can all very much do the same. We deal with sort of high reliability solutions, so cost isn't normally the most important thing for the customer, but I don't want to pretend it's not important. So you have to be cost competitive, so we don't lead on cost. And quality and reliability, they expect that. If you're going into a medical ventilator or a life support system, quality is obviously important. So when you take that away, you're just left with service and support. And I think that's true of a lot of companies. Yes. Our size, service and support is where it's at.
The customer experience, as you say, the customer experience these days. And you're 100% correct. I agree with you, because a lot of people, there's so many companies that make power solutions, and power supply is one of the oldest technologies. It hasn't really morphed into a semi. I mean, it's gone smaller form factors, but at the end of the day, you can't really make it any smaller, because when you have high power or longevity of reliability, also, according to the healthcare systems, they have the longevity of 10, 15, 20 years. This product needs to have longevity. And sometimes you say the price isn't the number one thing. It's the product quality, that little technology is built into it, and longevity of it. Yeah. So I really know ourselves, our company is very into the power segment, many power supply companies. So I see it as well as we can't make it any smaller, guys. We can't make it any cheaper. If you want to lose, the quality comes down, where the longevity comes down with quality. Price and quality on that point are really related. But that's really good. How overall the technology, how do you think the technology of the IoT, of the AI, of all that integrated into our power solutions, how is that going for you guys? Are you guys integrating more of a technology of data and analysis of the product?
Yes, that's another good question. Yeah, in terms of what's happening in power, the digitization is the interesting stuff, I think. Yeah. And like a lot of things in power, when the components come down to the right price points, you can actually start to use them in power electronics. So, and I think that's true of if we're going into sort of digital power, we do digital power, but it's really at the kilowatt upwards, really. So the low cost products, it's not, the price point means you can't really digitize them. But what's happening with digitization is quite exciting. I think there's two aspects of it. I think there's the whole control and the communication side of it. So if you have digital communication, so more and more customers want the power supply to talk to their tool, turn this voltage on, turn it up, change this, is my temperature okay? And I think you touched on also, a lot of issues you have when, if there is a failure, and I don't want to pretend there isn't ever any failures in power, you get the product back and you ask the customer, what was happening to the power supply when it failed? What was the failure mode? And they often can't tell you. So to be able to record in the power supply what was happening to it when it failed is possible now, which is quite exciting as well. But I think the really interesting stuff is the digital control loop, actually digitally controlling the power supply internally, and that allows us to do things that we couldn't do before. So really wide voltage adjustments on the fly, so for processes in semiconductor manufacturing and areas like that. So you've got all these new exciting things you can do with power now. And you talk about, they talk about in buildings where, basically when the last person goes out of the building at night, the central building management system can tell all the power supplies to shut down and save power and things like that. So all this stuff is here and now, but it's gradually coming down in power levels. So that's quite good. I guess the other thing that is interesting as well, GaN, the MOSFETs, which can switch very, very fast. And again, the price points are too high at the moment to use them in our types of products, but it's getting there very, very quickly. And I think when that comes, we'll see some quite interesting changes, and the power supplies will really shrink and become more efficient, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, of course, because it's new technology, the price point's always high, but the scalability, once the volume goes up, the price point goes down. But you're right. I mean, all the new technologies, the silicon-based, the wafer technology, and everything that goes into keeping the efficiency of buildings, just so you say, having a modular base or controlling the power and bringing, because everything's green, the green, as you say, the green energy brings save down, cost down, and the efficiency, because you can do data. It could do as I said, as a brain. Sometimes the power has a brain, and you could talk to it. Okay, hey, we're not using enough power, pretty much power out. So that's what's really exciting. Of people don't realize how fascinating and power is the world. Everything uses power. So some people forget how power is about everything, a charger, cell phone charger, to, as I say, a ventilator, to MRI machines, to anything that there's power, charging, and now EV, car charging. So everything has a power. And it's, as I said, that's sometimes I think it comes to the point of people don't realize how important power market is. And they're kind of going into the tech or the IoT and communication, but the power is a big segment. 30% of that is like the power side. So that's really, it's fascinating, and I love hearing the excitement that you guys have for the ever changing of the technology. So moving forward, I mean, in the last year, a lot of stuff has happened. I mean, from 2018 to 19, we had tariffs, right?
Yeah.
And now we're uncertain seeing, and we have the pandemic. So through the last, I mean, how is XP Power, as I said, pivoting or embracing the change first for the tariffs? How did that come about?
Yeah, I have to say we were very fortunate. Our first manufacturing facility was in China, and we always thought the next one, spreading geopolitical risk, would be outside China. So we built a factory. We bought the land just at the wrong time in 2008, just before the big other financial recession. But that passed. So we've got a factory in Vietnam, and when the tariffs hit, that ended up being really fortuitous, because we could move production from China to Vietnam, so we could supply our US customers with products sourced from Vietnam, which obviously legitimately didn't attract the tariffs. So that was a huge advantage. And we had a number of quite important US customers saying to us, look, they saw the way that trade relations were going, and the issue with the tariffs. They said, look, we're not going to design in Chinese source products. So that was actually really quite helpful for us in navigating through the tariffs, which was painful, I guess, for a lot of people. What's happened with the COVID-19 thing is Vietnam has turned up to be really helpful once again, because obviously the thing hit in China, and like everybody else, our factory was closed down. It didn't reopen after Chinese New Year because of the pandemic. And we were lucky that we opened earlier than most. We opened right at the end of February. But the supply chain took a while to come up in China. But during that time, of course, we had the Vietnam facility, and we'd already transferred a lot of products out of China to Vietnam because of the tariffs. So we ended up again being in a very fortunate position in terms of keeping product flowing to our customers, actually. So Vietnam has been very helpful. But I guess the other thing that's happened with the pandemic is I'd be interested to get your perspective on this as well, Rob, because I know you're exposed to a lot of other sectors. But I think it's quite widely considered that actually a lot of things that have been happening have been hugely accelerated by the pandemic. So the obvious one, working from home, telemedicine, digitization, just everything is accelerating, and it's really good for electronics. It's causing more and more demand for silicon. It's accelerating so many things. Our healthcare business, obviously, because of the pandemic, had a big ramp, because there was a huge demand for healthcare equipment, not only ventilators, but all the associated equipment that you need in an intensive care unit, the hospital bed, the patient monitors, the drug delivery systems. We've also seen, doctors saying, they have to see their patients over video now, and people refusing to do it. And all of a sudden, it seems to push things forward 10 years. So it's quite incredible. But I guess the last thing I'll say, I probably should let you speak, is that there's been a huge we were talking about this only last week, so I know you're intimately acquainted with it. A huge polarization of winners and losers because of what's happened in the pandemic. Obviously, if you're in the hospitality industry or in the travel industry, it's been really hard hit. But semiconductor manufacturing, IT, many aspects of healthcare are booming at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, everything you said. I agree with all of that. And it's that the technology has changed what is demanded. We've been the foot's on an accelerator for digitalization. The work from home is big. I mean, for us, we've like 4 months of our staff. Right now it's voluntary, but 4 months of our staff was at home. They need a device, they need a camera, they need all this. I mean, these products, I mean, a lot of people don't know, if you want to go buy a camera or an HD camera for video, they're expensive. There's a demand, there's a shortage. The price is doubled. You have to go on a reseller to buy. You can't buy from the factory anymore, buy from the regular retailer because there's a demand. So products in the IoT standpoint of microphones, technology, laptops, and then switching to a platform, it's a data focused, cloud-based. And that's a big thing too, is the Microsofts and the Googles and the Zoom, as we all know. Zoom is the big driver that did the change of communication, the WebExes. And, these are all that the platforms have changed. And all those companies are backed. They need technology. They need servers. They need data centers, right? So that's what's exciting, because it does take it to another level and accelerates as well. Because as a salesperson, our sales teams, you have sales teams too. It's just different type. We're all in sales, and I always say everybody is a salesperson. It's not what position you're in, right? How do you connect with your end user, the person you communicate with? And these are the challenges, especially when you go to technology. Like, as I said yourselves, you guys have a solution, a power solution. Usually you have a meeting, fit it in, they have spec, but sometimes touching, feeling, looking at it, and it changes. So how is your team's pivoted the sales side of it?
That is really interesting, because to be quite frank, I think some of our sales guys have coped better with it than others. Because obviously a lot of it with direct sales, I'd be interested to get your experience as well, see what I can learn from you. Because some of the sales guys are really struggling with the fact that they can't go and meet customers, and they always felt that they would find projects by being there and looking around. And I think there's a recognition now that that's not going to be the case for quite some time, and it may never be the same again. So and the interesting thing, we've been doing some more sales training with our guys in terms of, how do you prospect when you can't, visit and you can't do the normal things. And the interesting thing is that I've been inundated with a lot of email marketing. I'm sure you are as well, but even more so since the lockdown. But I've really been surprised that I haven't had many people calling in. And I attended some of the sales training that we were doing. And, we were really encouraging our guys, you've got to get on the phone, you've got to call, you can't rely on the email marketing and stuff like that, especially as you can't visit. So they've been doing quite a lot of work in how they get that initial interest, how they make that prospective calls. And I guess also we've been trying to turn up our inbound marketing. So we realize that, if we can't go visit, we've got to attract people to us. So I think we're having a look at how can we create much more interesting, useful collateral, so that when people have a power problem, that they come looking for us. So that's how we've been approaching it. But I've been quite interested with any learnings that you might have that I can sort of plagiarize off, really, because you are.
Yeah. Similar experience that we're having too is, how do we change it from the foot soldiers on the down, the engineers, talking to the buyers, commodity managers globally? I mean, we're in 12 different countries, and as yourself, in multi-different countries, how do you change it? And I think that every country has a different culture, the way they do it. US especially, US is its own animal, as I'd say, and their traditional sales tactics. People visit customers, visit a factory. Oh, what are they working on? You do prospecting inside the customer. That's basically what they did. But now when they can't go out, these salespeople can't go out. They're kind of like, now they're locked in a box and like, oh my God, what do I do? But that has accelerated the branding. Just like you said, it's creating branding, creating who are you, the content, and building a brand with the company, as I said, XP Power, or our company IBS, XP Power, building the brand online, building the presence, building the information. It's not about selling a product. It's like, who are they? And that's one thing in electronics, as you know, the top guys have the big branding, but the mid-tiers, tier 2, tier 3, you don't see that much. They just have a product and they have an end customer, and it goes they're not very open to social media, to the LinkedIn is new. I mean, LinkedIn, I would say, as you probably know yourself, is the most powerful tool right now for anybody, any sales sector, because all the engineers globally, everybody, there's right now, I think 600 million people on LinkedIn. And just in electronics, there's about 6 to 8 million people just in electronics field, that from engineers, buyers, executives, whatever they are, in all of it. So that is the place that, we invested on, myself is investing on, but also comes to training, just like you said, brought that up. How do you train them? How do they train the prospect? Because it's true, we're all very habitual, and we go into sending the email out. Okay, we're trying to get email back, but some people got stopped picking up the phone. I'm like, pick up the phone, call them. Just like you said, you're not getting a lot of calls, but pick
Yeah.
up the phone. You sent the email, followed up with a call. That's the traditional aspect. But we're so habitual that we just thought we'll just send an instant messenger or an email, wait for the reply back. It doesn't come back for 2 days. You send another one. I'm like, just pick up the phone. Or at these days, everybody's Zooming, as you call it, Zooming or video conferencing,
Yeah.
have a chat, because it is also psychologically for salespeople. It's like, how do you connect? And at the end of the day, it's connecting with your end customer, your current customers, and prospecting. Because people want to do business with people that they like, right?
Yeah.
People that they like. At the end of the day, you're just getting a seat at the table, right? You're getting a seat at the table to get the opportunity. You can't ask for the business. So for any sales aspect for us is, we just need to build the brand. Each salesperson has a brand tied to the company, and also the technology. Even just like I say, our principals that we have, a lot of our principals aren't very marketing savvy. They have white papers, they have data sheets, they have products, but they don't have content. So then it comes down to the distribution side or the rep side to do something. And reps in general, reps don't have anything. They're using the manufacturer for all the content, right? And that's a direct pass through. But now the reps, like, I see a lot of sales like, well, what do we do? We have just a basic old website. We don't have any content. I'm like, it's time to build your influence. And right now we've been accelerating myself 2 years to what we were, just because it's pandemic, because this is going to probably go on for another 1 to 2 years, I would think, before we're fully open to open doors again. We will probably have maybe some small meetings, some small corporate meetings, but 10, 20 people, not like it was free flow. But it's unfortunate. Different countries, as you know yourself, in China and in Vietnam, where your 2 factories are, it's kind of back to normal a bit. It's not, everywhere is master safety, but people are traveling, people are having meetings. My team's having meetings, they're having meetings. But Vietnam, fortunately, they didn't get hit that hard of this pandemic. As you said, it's a kind of, Vietnam was supposed to be in 2008, the big Silicon Valley and it kind of went down for the recession, and now it's coming back up at a center. But back to the marketing side, yes, it's just building branding, building a company. And I've seen XP Power as well, has built revamped the website, building the connect. What do you guys stand for? What's the product module? So how can people find you, right? Because at the end of the day, too, you have distributors. I know you have your big, the catalog houses, the DigiKey and the Mausers and all these catalog houses, where an engineer could find it, put it into a solution. But at the end of the day, is that product also needs some engineering backing. There needs to be a salesperson to follow up on that, to say, hey, do you need a customization a little bit? This is just a standoff product. Can we make it fit your things? Because it's a customer experience, right? At the end of the day, customer experience. And that's what XP Power, like you said, is you've given the experience for the product. The product can sell itself or have it, but also the experience that the customer wants. So really, it's to me, it's I was just saying, back to that, it's really how have we embraced the change for the pandemic? How are we moving forward, and how can we and really educate people out there? Because the demographic, as you know, it's a older demographic in the industry. General technology, Asia's young, US much older demographic. And that's one thing, is how can we build the new information, the branding of the funness and excitement for myself? That's why I'm really doing a lot of this, is building the summit. We are fun people. We are exciting. We have a personality. We're not just engineers. We're not just the executives. This is exciting technology that's going to revolutionize the world ahead. Correct. And that we are in it. But sometimes we don't brand it that we're doing this, the software and that stuff is the sexy side. So that's why I really want to hear from yourself, a leader yourself, how that really evolved, how you're embracing the change, and how are you motivating your teams globally, your sales teams globally, to make sure they connect with the customers.
Yeah, it is some of those things that you touched on, Rob. Actually, it is the training. We're staying very close to them, because a lot of them are working from home. So we're doing a lot of our own in-house videos like this. I think that works. But I don't know, so it's Big Brother. We monitor them. It's a statistics game, so we can see their activity through the systems as well.
The data tells us.
Some of them have been under a lot of pressure as well, because obviously we've had a lot of sort of medical orders. The customer wants it now, so they've been under an awful lot of pressure. So we've also had to sort of stay close to them and make sure that they're coping all right as well. Because a lot of them aren't used to being at home a lot. So it's a mixture of all those things. But I think generally now, I think the organisation is in good spirits. My main concern is the one I touched on before. It's the guys. and most of the guys can adapt to the new world, but I'm worried that some people are struggling with it, and they feel that it's that they have to do a face-to-face to be effective. And interesting enough, one of the things that I sort of thought of as you were talking then is one of the guys on our all hands meeting was saying, well, no, it's all very well, but I can't have that. I can't just have that normal rapport that I go and just chat to my customer about something without having to be trying to sell to him. We said, well, yes, you can. And actually, we did it 3 weeks ago. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a discussion. We didn't talk about selling and buying and stuff like that. We were just talking about the industry and stuff like that. It's just part of building that rapport and stuff like that. So my own belief is I still think you can do it through video. It's not as good, but I still think you can do it through video. My belief is I think people are getting used to it. It's as a norm. But
yeah, we're connecting now. I mean, we're connecting through it. At the end of the day, I think every person, doesn't matter you're in sales, you're in management, you're executive management, where you are, you have to build a brand. Everything is online these days. So it's accelerated. And you have to have an online DNA. You have to have a DNA online of who you are, who you're doing business with, who the company is, and the leaders have to be upfront. I mean, as yourself, you are a leader. You're a leader. You're out there. You're talking to shareholders. You're talking to your team, and that's what it is. But in a lot of the industry, you don't see that as much, except for the big guys. But the smaller guy, you don't see it as much of who are they, who's the company, what's happening, how are they adjusting, and how are they dealing with this teams and the culture wise, and that's really giving them motivation. And as I said, I've pivoted, I've embraced the change, and of course, I haven't traveled just like probably yourself. It's been 6 months since I've gone anywhere. I've been traveling for 20 plus years, traveled to Asia constantly. I miss the power. I miss my people. I miss the culture. I miss the food. All these things, these steps, the tangibles that you can't really get from a video. But we're doing our best to manage it. And I think when we be able to travel to Asia again, to some of the countries, it's going to be just that much more exciting. Like, don't take it for granted. Don't take things for granted. And the teams, and it's keeping the spirits up. That's why I really want to understand is like how is the future right now that you see in the technology in the power field? What's your foresight in the next 3 to 5 years? Really?
It's more of what I said before. I think that the digitization is going to come down the power level. And I think the GaN MOSFETs are going to make they will. I think the big talk there is when electric vehicles really take off, GaN price points will come down, and GaN will come down into power more and more, I think. So I think we're going to see, smaller, faster, cheaper. There are other trends which will continue. To be honest, you said, it's old technology, and it is. A lot of our customers are very conservative. So I think a lot of the customers won't embrace the new technology until it's been in the field for some time, just because they want, they're not happy to see quality and reliability, theoretically proved. They want some real field data, really. So I think all the changes in power today, I hope I don't live to regret this, have always been evolution rather than revolution or a big quantum change. And a lot of it you'll be aware of, as the components get better, the power supply can get smaller, more efficient. There's another thing you hit on, which is efficiency, which is big news and which is becoming ever more important, I think. So, so people have gone away from, what they want to get rid of fans in power supplies. I mean, that trend's been going on for some time, and that's coming up the power level as well as the components get better. So I think we'll see more and more fanless power supplies, and people perceive of the fan, I mean, they're often right, it's the most unreliable part of the power system. If you get rid of a fan, you don't need holes in the box to blow the heat out, so you can seal the box, so you're not going to get dust and other stuff coming into your equipment that can interfere with it. In a medical environment, it's great because you've probably got liquids, and you don't want liquids and electronics. You'll know more than I do. Is not a great mix. And also, in the patient vicinity, you don't want a fan whirring, on a patient monitor and things like that. So I think it's, evolution of components, smaller, faster, cheaper, efficiency, and then I think that where there will be a quantum leap will be with GaN, because I think we will see a huge increase in efficiency and size when the price points get right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And as I said, is the technologies, but that's interesting insight too. You're saying some of your customers are a little conservative, especially into some sensitive fields. They don't want to use some of the new technology because they don't know the reliability, right? So they're using the legacy type of products. But as we know, I mean, even in the medical field, you see how everything has changed. Everything is digitalization, everything is touch. And as I say, ventilators weren't the only thing that accelerated. Everything in that hospital room is digital these days. It's all by a band, RFID, and they use a device or iPad. It's all digital. Paperwork has been really obsoleted, or obsolete. Sorry, obsolete, and it's moving forward that way. It's really fascinating how the whole process and where we are, but as I said, the world didn't end what we got into, what we've been going to this year. The world hasn't ended. We've pivoted. We are creatures of habit, but we see how we're like chameleons.
Yeah.
Shutdowns happen, things happen. Our business had to go move on. The companies who go into this, take that initiative, invest a bit, change the mentality, and come out. They'll come out just a much stronger and more powerful company. Like XP Power in general. You guys are leaning into it. Like, okay, you know what? This is another challenge, another road path. We're going to get through this and come out even stronger at the other end, which we're changing our internally to externally, and it'll show. At the end of the day, it shows that the internal, because you can market external, but if the internal doesn't change, it's from inside without. It says inside out. As I always tell my team, is like, I can create the best marketing, but if our team culture isn't there, how can we sell that, right?
Yeah. How can I ask you? Maybe I can ask you, Rob. I don't turn it around.
Yeah.
In terms of your team sort of working from home, how did that work? How effective was that? Do you think it worked okay?
It was taken. Let's go back here. So for all this all started. I'll give you a little quick synopsis. All this started late January, right? Late January, our customers went to Chinese New Year. Everything shut down. Which the funniest story is, I was in India February 5th. I got my VP of China sent me a letter to open up our office. I mean, this is because China shut down third week of January. February 5th, I was in India visiting some customer in the office in Bangalore. I got a letter. I had to sign it off that we have all the PPE, we have all the sanitary, I write it off. February 14th, we got audited. February 17th, our office in China actually opened. It's been open since February 17th, which is pretty unbelievable. And I'm like, and I look back, I'm like, oh my God, we've been open. So China and Hong Kong wasn't hit as bad, is pretty good. Work from home wasn't a big deal. We're fine. That operated. But where we got hit in the work from home, that was a little first couple of months, was Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Philippines, those countries, and the US as well. In the U.S., I think people were more adapting. Thankfully, we have a cloud management system. I thought I had 2 years ago. Everything's cloud-based. Everything's through Microsoft Teams connection. The only thing was getting people hardware. That was a challenge. But of course, people have kids at home. How do you do that? So we really had what we did was we had some weekly programs that how to manage yourself at home, how to culture, because it's a psyche. It doesn't matter how big or small your residence is, where you are. Everybody has their own ways, like to try to go to school, or the kids coming in, or what's going on. So we had as I say, I call it myself kumbaya. Every week we discussed management call, team calls. I got on the global team calls, and hey, how can we help you guys? We're working this together. If you have any challenges, issues, don't worry about it. And everybody could reach out to each other. That's one thing that I learned was, our system is integrated. The whole global staff got to talk to each other, got to send each other messages, what's going on, sent videos. I started a video program. Hey, everybody, don't put videos on social media, but take a video of yourself. How are you feeling today? Just say something fun that we could all share things and build some more excitement, confidence that this is all going to be okay and we're going to go with it. Don't get me wrong. We had some, probably yourself, we had some people take it very hard. Some people didn't take it hard. People were very challenged. But in my part, it comes from leadership. The leadership, everybody ask me, why am I so positive? Why am I always so positive? Why things are going? I'm like, well, first of all, there's a lot of things. We take care of ourselves. We understand we're trying to lead. We have to lead by example. That's a big thing. The leader for me is leading by example of what I want to do, and lead by example. I can't tell people to do something that I'm not going to do, or get my hands dirty. Lead by example. The health, the wellness, exercise, walk. If you can't go outside your home, do some basic exercising. Get up, do some squats. I'm as you say, a fitness guy too. And one thing I was hoping to bring that up is I found some interesting information about you. You are a martial arts master. Well, I had no idea. Myself, I could not find that. I'll put myself with what I'm in. I'm a sports CrossFit. I'm a very athletic type since I was much younger. So that really helped me be a leader. But now on to you is what I've seen. I found your martial. You are, what's it called? Dushikai? What's it
Yeah,
called?
I inherited a bit by accident. I inherited a martial arts club. Yes, so the people who founded it emigrated to France, and I took it over. Yeah, so it's
It's like, was it Shotokan karate, right?
it
Shotokan
is. Yes,
karate?
it is. Yes, it's a mixture of stuff. Yeah, but it's mainly Shotokan karate. It's, yeah.
Well, yeah, I found, I mean, I researched, I mean, I would find stuff, exciting stuff. So I can see that you are, I mean, you're a fourth degree black belt?
Yes, yeah. But
Wow.
it's an think of it as an academic interest rather. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go against a real fighter, but it's
So, but you know, that has also sculpted your mindset as a leader, you know, the discipline and enthusiasm. And, you know, these are all the things that can bring the student to your team, to family, to team, to show you the discipline that we can get through challenging times. And it's just the repetitions. As I said, it's repetition is a mother of all skill. You have
yeah.
to do repetitions, you know, and but it's as I said, I was very fascinating. I found a video of you on YouTube doing
Oh,
your thing. It was something like, oh my god, this is fantastic. This is the epitome of what, you know, discipline and leadership is, what we all should do. You know, we all should have something that's external than just the work, because that's allows us to show our people, you know, that we could do this, and a lot of weights on our shoulders, but we manage it. As you said, it's just another
yeah.
accolade of a skill that you have.
Yeah, another interesting thing you say, because you have got it in a bounds. Because the other thing I think you have to have as a leader is I think you have to be an eternal optimist. However things, how about, and I can see that you've got that in spades, just the way you move and talk. So I can imagine that you were steering your organisation through this crisis in an extremely positive way. It's
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's very fascinating. But what the thing I want to understand is, like, you went to school for chemistry. How
yeah.
did you end up in electronics?
It's a complete, like all things in life, it's a complete accident. I did chemistry at college, and I
At
almost
Oxford, it wasn't just a college, at a very prominent university.
yeah, at Oxford, and I was almost going to be a chemist, but I'd always had an interest in finance, and so it was a bit of a flip of a coin, and I ended up doing finance, and then, but completely by accident, as I said, I was in Silicon Valley. I lived in Silicon Valley for 4 years in the 90s, which was a great experience working for a company called LSI Logic. You may even know them because you're
I've
in
heard
the
about that logic, yeah.
Facebook company in
Yeah.
finance, and then and it was purely by chance I got into. I found the semiconductor industry fascinating, but I joined Dell. I didn't really enjoy that very much. Then I got this call about this job at XP to be the finance director for the IPO. So it was a complete accident getting into power, I guess, and a complete accident ending up running it as well, I guess. But I think I would guess to say that most people you speak to, their career plans weren't really mapped out through into their 40s and 50s. I
Well,
mean,
you
how
know,
did you get into? Yeah, go
yeah,
on.
you know, some people were on, you know, some people are electronics. You're right. Some people went to school, they went for something biology, but chemistry or business in general, and then they got into from a friend or from somebody got into electronics. You know, depends on what area you are. But I've listened to talked to a lot of people, and some people their whole career ends up in electronics somehow. Like
Yeah.
20 to 40 years, they end up in this, and then they move around some places. But for yourself, you've been steadfast. You've grown a business. I mean, it takes leadership, and what you've done in XP Power in the last 20 years. It's fascinating. You know, from the IPO, coming as a finance guy to a CEO, and to 20 years of doing a lot of acquisitions. So my hat's off to you. You know, you've done a great job, and that's something. It is you have to understand that there's a lot of trials and tribulations, and that longevity of going up and down through the recessions, through the restructuring. It takes a lot. It takes, as I said, leadership, and as you said, optimism.
Yeah.
To see the future.
Absolutely. I mean, you touched it on it yourself.
Yeah.
About coming out of these things stronger, because that's when you really do need your optimism. When everybody thinks the war is going to end as a leader, because if you start thinking that, I think everybody around you will quickly start thinking that as well. And I think it's Nietzsche, wasn't it? Was it Nietzsche who said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger," or something like that?
Yes. So it doesn't kill me, and I think we're living that right now.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
we're living that right now. It's just the health and the wellness and staying healthy, and with everybody and what's going on in the industry. As I said, I always say, don't try to, you control what, as I said, don't try to control things you cannot control. Do not focus on things you cannot control. Control yourself. You can control everything within you, within your means. But a lot of things that people focus in these times of trying to control something that it's out of their control. You can't it's out there. Control yourself, be yourself, work on yourself, improve the self-discipline of being a better. As I said, for me, I have the mentality, the mantra, the Mamba mentality, the Kobe Bryant, a quest to be the best version of your oneself, because it
Yeah.
takes great discipline. It takes time to put in and putting the reps in to get those skills, and as well as then you can be the leader and move forward. So it really, changes that. But this has been fantastic, Duncan. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you. Learned some fascinating things. Maybe some days we can meet in person. You can show me some of those moves of yours,
Oh, yeah.
disciplined moves
Yeah.
of yours, and we go from there. Well, very good. Any last words from your end?
Well, only thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it, as I enjoyed our discussion a few weeks ago and our previous discussions, and appreciate everything you've done for us at XP. I know that the guys in my supply chain really rate your service, so thank you for that, and stay safe, I guess.
Yeah, stay safe out there, and hopefully one day, maybe the next year, we can again see each other, have another great discussion, and as I said, build that connection interpersonally. So thank you again. I appreciate it, Duncan. I remember, for my mantra, as I always say, is be smart, be thoughtful, be generous. Thank you. Talk to you again.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.